Match color, replace color, equalize. Hi guys, today we'll talk about three commands at once: match color, replace color, and equalize. And we'll also remember the already familiar command desaturate. Let's start with match color. This command is absolutely indispensable when working with collages, because when we take image elements from different sources, then it can vary greatly in brightness, color, and saturation. We can just balance all these indicators with the help of this command. For example, we'll take this image of a girl, and I would like to edit a couple of roses to her head. We have a rose like this, a pretty bright one. And pay attention, now it has such rather hard edges. And if we transfer it in its original state, these edges will be too catchy. Let's soften them. And at the same time, let's remember how to work with the selected areas. Take a magic wand, click on the background and select all transparent pixels. Look, the selection is on the very edge of the rose. And now we will expand the selected area. Click on Select, Modify, Expand. Look at how the edge has shifted. Here, let me get it even closer. And now we'll blur this edge. To do this, I'll go to the filter Gaussian Blur. I blur the edge a little, so that it's not so hard. Well, probably leave it like this. OK. Ctrl+D. Remove the selection. Look, the rose has become less rigid after all. But if we need to, we'll blur these edges again. And now let's transfer it to the image with the girl. So, our rose. Let's reduce it. Press Ctrl+T. I think you remember that. So we'll have something like this. So we can somehow rotate it. And if we want to place it behind the head, we need to work a little with a razor. I will reduce the opacity. So let's zoom in. Let's take an eraser. Here you can take hard and soft ones. It depends on the situation. Erase carefully everything that we need to erase. Well, I think this is it. Return the opacity. So, well, probably you can still work a little more with this edge of the head. So, we got our rose. But pay attention that it's quite different in its color from the whole image. I'll reduce it a little. And you can immediately see that we edited separately. So now let's use the command Image, Adjustments, Match Color. We have a window like this. And in this window we'll indicate the source of the image that we use as the main one. That is, we will now choose this image. Here I have its name, and we will use it as a main image in order to change the color of our rose. And now look, I'm changing these parameters. And I choose the shade of the rose so that it fits well enough into our work, so that it wouldn't be so much different. Okay, so let's say it will be this color. Now we can edit a second rose in exactly the same way. Take it. Here I have already softened the edges a little. Go to our image. I would like to place this rose behind the previous one, so I'll swap the layers. So let's bring it here somewhere. In the same way, we'll reduce the level of opacity, so that we can somehow refine this side. You can still experiment with its location. I think it doesn't quite fit in. In the same way, we also go to the image, Adjustments, Match Color, and select the source that we had. It's this one. And adjust. See how the shade of my rose changes when we choose the right color. And it already fits into our image and looks more natural. Okay, let's leave it as it is. You can also refine its edge a little with a soft eraser in order to fit it into our image. Make it more blurry. It was possible to blur it a little more at the stage when we copied it. But if we want to combine our image into a single whole, so that the rows fit even better into our composition, then nothing will unite all the elements of the image into a single whole like the adjustment layer. This can be different adjustment layers. For example, it can be a photo filter adjustment layer. Let me remind you about it. It will tone all the images. Let's move it higher, so that the whole image gets the same shade. Here is what we had without it, and what we got when using it. I think of course you can still work here and try to experiment with the side of the roses and their position, but I hope you can handle it on your own. By the way, this command works very good in the case when, for example, you make some kind of layout with several photos on one page. And in order for it not to differ too much in color, you can just use the command and make them look similar. Let's move on to the next command, which is called replace color. I duplicated the layer so that it would be convenient for us to compare. Image adjustments. We're already used to this operation. Choose replace color. And here we click on the color that we would like to replace with an eyedropper. Well, for example, I would like to change the color of the t-shirt. Click. Here I have it displayed. I can take an eyedropper with a plus sign and edit some more areas. You can pay attention to how the preview changes in this case. And it immediately becomes clear which areas fall into the number of areas that will change color. I can use an eyedropper with a minus sign and cancel this value in some places. After that, I can use these settings. As you can see, the hue changes in this way, and I can pick it up right here. If I want to edit, say, these areas, I click on the areas that I want to edit, and it changes its color. I can change the saturation in exactly the same way. It's very convenient, as you can see. I can change the lightness. It's a huge space for your creativity in terms of coloristics. And you can just click on this window here and choose some color here, like this. Everything is simple. So what color should I choose? So let me choose a color that differs more strongly from the original one. And I press OK. And that's how well the color of the image has changed. Everything has changed perfectly. And now let's look at the last command for today, which is called Equalize. There are photos with unevenly illuminated composition. For example, look at the quiz on the left. Illuminated much more strongly. Sometimes it can be even more expressed. But I just couldn't find photos with sufficiently expressive effects, because high-quality photos still prevail on the web. And in this case, the command will help us to equalize the brightness. But first, let's desaturate this photo, so that our work still looks aesthetically pleasing enough. And at the same time, we'll remember the desaturate command. We'll go into the image adjustments, desaturate, or press Shift plus Ctrl plus U shortcut, and the photo is desaturated. Well, now we'll see how the Equalize command will work. Image adjustments equalize. And look how much closer in tone and brightness their faces have become. But at the same time, the whole photo has become somewhat grayish. Therefore, this command rarely works well individually, and it makes sense to use, for example, the levels adjustment layer in this case. Look, even the histogram shows how evenly the brightness is now distributed throughout the photo. We can edit a little bit of dark colors to make the image more contrasting, and edit a little bit of light. Now, it's probably not worth it. Maybe the slider should be shifted slightly to the left. Well, let it be, for example, like this. But don't forget, of course, that you can always use a mask. Now we can take, for example, the gradient tool, which is radial right now. And for example, we can reduce the impact of the applied effect here. Now we have applied this mode to the entire layer. Let's see what we had and what we have got. That is, the brightness has become more even, but there is also a slightly different way of working with this kind of images. So let me duplicate this layer again and desaturate it again. So look, I'm not going to bother too much now and select carefully. I'll just make the elliptical selection just to show you how it works. And once again, we go to the image adjustments equalize. And look, you can either change only the selected area or change the entire image based on selected area. If we leave the selected area, then click OK and see how the part of the image that falls into the selected area has changed. I think obviously the result can be very well evaluated. And if we would select the figure or face of this man carefully using the pen tool and make the edges of the selection blurry, we could get a very good effect. Of course, there is still a disadvantage that the quality of the photos is just very bad, and it would have to be fully retouched first. But I think that the basic idea in general clear to you. And now let's try to apply the equalize to the entire image based on selected area option. And we have something like this. That is, you can experiment and see which option suits you more. Well, I'm still somehow more satisfied with this option. which we got in the first case when we didn't create any selected areas. Well, let's move on to the homework now. So, the first homework assignment will be a collage with the roses, or you can pick up some other flowers, or maybe other accessories that you want to put on the girl's head. The second task will be to change the color of the t-shirt. Well, the third task is to equalize the brightness of this photo, and desaturate it first, of course. I would like to make a small addition to this lesson and tell you in more detail about the match color operation, because there are still questions. I have already put a rose on the head, and the difference from the lesson is that I removed the edges of the rose, not with an eraser, but with a mask, which allows us to move the rose more conveniently. But let's go directly to the match color command. And in order to make it more clear, I opened another file called threshold. It's in such a blue color range, so that you can see the difference. So let's go back to our file and select the layer to which we want to apply a match, the color operation. It's a layer with a rose, but there could be, of course, another layer. Then we go to the image, adjustments, match color, and here we see the enabled source window and the disabled layer window. The fact is that the file that we can use as a source can consist of either one layer or several, and initially we select the file itself, and then we select the layer in this file that we want to use as a source. For example, if I now take the threshold file, then the rose will automatically become this color. And since there is only one background layer in this file, then we see it is put automatically. We can use a file in which we have several layers as a source. For example, if we take our file, which is called match color, then by default we can have both the background and the layer 1. If we put layer 1, then the color is matched directly for this layer, but we change the image parameters. For example, we can change the intensity of colors, like this. We can manually select the color parameters, so that it match our image, but let's not do that. And let's take the background as a source, and then, in this case, the image parameters are automatically adjusted to the selected layer. That is, initially, the layer with the rose itself was selected as the layer under the source, and we manually set the image parameters. And if we choose another layer, then in this case we automatically adjust the image to the selected layer. And of course we can somehow change something in it too. This is how we can match the color for our image in one way or another. I choose this color and click OK. And now I'm going to take a brush. This time I take a soft brush. Before that I worked with a hard brush on the mask. I will reduce its opacity. And on the layer mask I will refine the edges a little. Reduce opacity. That is, I want to make sure that the edges are still not so actively visible, so that it is a little more blurred. This is just a different way relative to the one that was shown in the lesson. After all, we know that in Photoshop any result can be achieved with the help of different actions. Maybe I'll work with a white brush a little more here. I will return it the other way around. This can be done for quite a long time, and I hope that after this addition the match color operation will be more understandable for you. It was Peter Romanov and AIM School. See you next time.